이 영상은 실제로 영어 낭독을 하는 모습을 녹화한 것입니다. 처음에는 눈으로만 쭉 읽었습니다. 그 다음에 내 목소리를 통해 낭독을 했습니다. 영어 원서 리딩도 100% 이해하지 못하고 발음과 인토네이션도 완벽하진 않지만 일단 해보는 것이 중요하다고 생각합니다. 이 영상을 보고 계신 분들에게 별로 도움이 되지는 않을 것 같습니다. 사실 제가 영어 습득 과정을 남기고 싶어서 녹화를 한 거거든요. 그리고 이 배경에 깔리는 화면에는 그 Kindle Unlimited 버전을 사용해서 제가 읽고 있는 모습이거든요. 한 달에 한 12달러 정도 되는 것 같습니다. 이게 모든 책을 다 볼 수는 없지만 영어 낭독 용도로는 꽤 괜찮은 것 같습니다. 그리고 저작권 때문에 이 화면을 조금 블러 처리했거든요. 그래서 이런 부분은 좀 양해를 좀 부탁드리겠습니다. 네, 감사합니다.
Chapter 4: How English Mastery Really Works. It's the most simple things in life that are the most extraordinary, says Brazilian writer Paulo Coelho. I agree. Indeed, mastering a language is not complicated. On the contrary, it's very, very simple. One of the big mistakes I made when I was struggling with Japanese was always looking for a better way to run. A new method for improving. I would try things but quickly doubt myself and end up thinking I needed to find a better way. I repeated this process again and again and again. I went from trying to run by listening to Japanese all day, every day, to studying textbooks, to trying to run by practicing with native speakers, to trying to memorize lists of vocabulary. All of these things can be useful as part of an improvement plan, but what I was doing had no balance. I did a lot of stuff, but it was also random and messy. There was no structure or consistency to what I was doing. It was busy work, but not smart work. The result? My Japanese was also messy and random with no structure or consistency. Improving in a second language is actually very, very simple. Not easy to do, to be sure, but extremely simple. It comes down to a very simple, but importantly consistent, two-step process which I call the two-track approach. In a nutshell, step 1, a short period of focused, intensive study of English to grow your usable words, chunk, phrases, and expressions, etc. Step 2, use what you've learned in the real world as much as you can to automate it. Use what you've learned in the real world as much as you can to automate it. Simple, right? Yes, it is. But as with anything, the devil is in the details. What language do you need to learn? What is the most effective way to learn the English you need? What is the most effective way to automate it? And what is the correct balance of learning and using? Never fear. That's what this chapter is all about. The imbalance problem. As an English learner, you have two goals. You need to grow your English. For example, increase the amount of usable words, chunk, phrases, expressions you have. And second, to automate it, meaning to make it smooth and fluent. The problem is these two goals need to be done in two different ways, and they contradict each other. Worse, studying English slows down the automation stage if done wrong. You already read in chapter 1 that if you are always studying English, always switch it onto learning English and consciously trying to improve, you will just create that habit. You're telling your brain, English is different to my native language. It's something I have studied and analyzed. And since we get good at what we do, all you'll ever get good at is being an English learner, not an English speaker. On the other hand, just using English with no attempt to learn is a very, very slow way to grow your English. Research shows that the fastest way to improve is to learn. For example, study first, then use what you learned. And to do this in the most effective way, my client used the two-track approach. As I said above, this is a balance of focused, intense learning where you spend 30 minutes to an hour every day studying and learning the English you need. This is your growth time. This is the time for analyzing, trying to understand, looking stuff up in the dictionary, using practice exercises. In a nutshell, this is your time for being an English learner. Then, outside of that focused block of time, you use English as much as you can, but without trying to run. You just treat it in the same way as your native language. You do English, not learn it. In other words, this is your time for being an English speaker. This approach allows you to grow your English fast while also developing the correct habit in your head by telling your brain, English is the same as my native language. Focused, intensive learning. Right now, and I mean right now, I want you to go to your calendar and schedule between 30 minutes and an hour of time every day for English study. Do it now. This is your study time. And if English is important to you, you will turn up each and every day to do it. Treat it as important. Treat this time the same as you treat turning up for your job or a meeting. You wouldn't just decide not to do those things. So don't just decide not to do your English study time. What if you think you're too busy? You're not. If you think creatively, you will find time. And honestly, if you absolutely do not have 30 minutes a day to work on your English, you have much bigger problem in your life than English. So close this book now and go and sort those out first. In chapter 1, I told you about how several years ago, one of my coaching clients, Takumi, worked in an international company in Japan and constantly had trouble at work because of his English. He wasted a lot of time because of misunderstandings and mistakes and ended up having to work a lot of overtime, often unpaid. Obviously, his incompetence made him very, very unpopular with his boss and co-workers too. The solution was both simple and obvious. Fixing damn English. Now, what I didn't tell you in chapter 1 was how he did it. You see, this guy was already super busy. His schedule was jam-packed, and he thought there was no way he could find time for studying English. But there was a simple solution. Takumi traveled to work every day on one of Tokyo's high-speed commuter trains. If you ever seen videos of rush hour trains in Tokyo, you will know they are unbelievably crowded. You may have even seen on TV the station employees with white gloves whose job it is to push people into the train so the doors can close. But many of these trains also often have a green car, which is basically a first-class carriage where it's quieter and you can sit down. And that's what Takumi did. He got himself a pass for the green car and used this time for his English every day. 40 minutes to work, 40 minutes back. Suddenly, he had just over an hour every day to dedicate to this English. To make a long story short, Takumi improved so fast he ended up getting a promotion the following year and earning a lot more money. So not only was his investment in a green card pass great for making time to do his English, but it was also a great financial investment. The point is, find time to study. No excuses. 30 minutes to an hour a day is all you need. Any more than that, and you're probably just wasting time anyway. Your learning should be focused and intense. We'll talk about what you might do in this time throughout this book. 80% of what my boys and girls in my MEPA coaching course do is all the same, but often is the 20% customized to you personally that has the biggest impact. But it should be the kind of study that makes your head feel like jelly when you're done. It's simple, really. If you're not tired at the end of your study, you didn't do it right. It's simple, really. If you're not tired at the end of your study, you didn't do it right. Relaxed UCG and exposure. Now you've got your intensive learning time schedule. It's time to have fun with English. Learning a language is a little like weight training. This is something I'll talk about more in chapter 7 when we talk about building fluency faster. You got to put that hard, intensive time into your exercises, and that's what you do in your running time. But really, the muscle growth happens during recovery, and English is similar.